Hey everybody, welcome back to Just Around the Corner. I'm Sarah Daniels, and today I have with me the founders and directors of Gap Relief, Amy Butler and Megan Taylor. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, we're glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm so excited to get to talk with you guys and just share with the community who you guys are, what you're doing, and as I was thinking about who you guys are and how to even describe you. Um, you guys just do so much that I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to let you guys say what you are, what you're doing. And so, yeah, would just love to start off with that of tell us a little bit about what is gap relief.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm just noticing as you've brought us together and kind of what you're doing in your project with your podcast, like you are relieving gaps in making sure that we all know who each other are, what we're doing, because we really are better together. And so I really respect what you're doing. So asking us to tell about ourselves, like I'm all about being a part of how do we see each other in community and see the resources that we all are and that we can work smarter together.
Yeah.
So I love it. Thank you for being a gap reliever in this. And that kind of helps me kind of even explain like who we are, because it's actually very difficult in some ways, but can be simple in others. And so if I go the simple route first, we are a nonprofit. We are in Springdale, Arkansas. We have a clinic part of who we are. We have a programs part of who we are. And we're ever in development of who we are. And so I think the easiest way to talk about what we're passionate about is we really realize that we are a trauma care unit where everyone that is in our team, it has high levels of trauma care training, with the purpose of being equipped and ready to help when trauma comes through the door, like when we are trying to help people get into better places. And who we have seen tends to have higher trauma impact level are our helpers in the communities, or that's where we want to be strategic. We're not exclusive to that, but we really have leaned into noticing, like, certain sectors like law enforcement or our education system, our nonprofit sector. There's sectors around us that have trauma impact that we really feel led to unsilo what we're doing in our clinic. When people come see us, we want to go into these sectors. And so that's what we call programs. And so we have a trauma care clinic where people come to see us. They come get counseling services where it's a holistic mindset. Our practitioners are not all trauma therapists, but they are trauma care practitioners. And all the way to we take what we are and who we are, and we take it out into the community and do training, and take who we are and what we're trained in to go into those sectors to help them build more resilient systems and the leaders to have the resourcing they need so that they can lead it in a trauma and in human informed way. So that kind of like summarizes in a nutshell what we're fighting for.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful too. And even in the name and what you were saying before of like gap relieving, of we're building bridges in spaces where there are gaps. And I think that's so common, especially for like even on your website, you say helping helpers.
Mhm.
And that's such a big gap, is there are a lot of people in these helping professions, whether you're a therapist or a police officer or a firefighter or in the military or a teacher or whatever. It can be really hard to know where to get help. And um, these people are serving every day. And so the fact that you guys are specifically wanting to really fill the gap for those people and just for the general population is really huge. And that you're coming in with this lens of like, okay, our team is specifically trained to meet you guys where you are. um,
Mhm.
and I think that that's so valuable. And even just knowing your team a little bit of like, you have former law enforcement people on your team. You have people who have diverse backgrounds who like are helpers that really know that arena well. And so I think that's so valuable. Um, yeah, curious if there's anything else you would add there.
Yeah, I think just as we have leaned specifically kind of into the helping sectors and people that are stepping onto the front lines, or we often will say it's like they're saying yes to really hard things.
Mm,
Um, and so looking at how do we best support them, I think is why, and Amy kind of described this already, but kind of the two-pronged model that we have of like the clinic and then also the program side is that oftentimes and the systems that we're functioning in within our community, we're functioning just to try to do the best we can and get the job done, but often our systems are not built necessarily with the human in mind.
mm,
And like recognizing how do humans work, how do human nervous systems work, how do pain, stress, and trauma impact people, and so that's one part of that we really enjoy that Amy described the programs piece where we get to go in and hand training to the community. We try to make it really specific to what they need. And that looks really different between a law enforcement agency and a school.
mm.
While they both are saying yes to hard things and they're stepping into those places day in and day out, that can look different for those different sectors. And so that's a big piece of what we try to hold as well is what actually matters to the organizations that we're working with, so we can meet them where they are with things that are practical.
Yeah, I like that two-prong system of, there's this clinic aspect where you can schedule an appointment with someone and you can meet with them for, weekly appointments or do intensives or that sort of thing. And then there's also, hey, we're going to come to you and we're going to create these programs that are really centered around your specific needs in your community and your organization. And we want to provide training and just more opportunities to connect to really help you guys get what you need and get that education so that you can be empowered to continue to spread that ripple effect, which just feels really huge and something that I think there's a desire for a lot of helpers to do that, but not always the ability to really do that in the way that you guys are. And so I think it's really cool that you're really trying to meet people where they are and give them the tools that they need to move forward in their own journey. And it's not like this codependent relationship where like, yes, you need us, we need you to come in our space and
Mhm.
get what we have. We're going to come to you and really assess like, okay, who are you guys and how can we empower you to do that in the healthiest way possible. So I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so just talking with you guys and what you're doing, like this is a really valuable, but also, I mean, big task. And I'm curious, how did you guys get to this place where like, this is what we want to do? This is what we want to take on. And just, yeah, I'm curious. Tell me more about how you guys got to where you decided, okay, we want to make gap relief a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that so Amy and I both were trauma therapists and had a couple years of experience doing that already, kind of when our stories intersected. We didn't know that we actually had some pretty similar things in our backstory that had led us to where we currently were. We discovered that later, which was kind of cool. But we actually started internationally and just kind of by responding to a situation that was right in front of us. And so had some friends that Amy was primarily connected to that were living overseas, and they experienced some trauma on the ground where there was a robbery that took place. And so that impacted them, a few different families that lived in the same space. Kids were present and witnessed that also. And so just as Amy continued to connect with them and she pulled me in to connect on the kids side, we began to see, I think maybe we need to go there, like actually go to Africa and just take care of them and love on them. And so, so we did, and kind of in that space, I think both of us were expecting, hey, we're going to go to Africa. It'll be cool. We'll take care of our friends and we'll come back home and just kind of keep living life. You know, we were both working as counselors in different spaces at that time. And so we went to Africa and engaged with them. But during that time, I think began to see and feel like, whoa, there are a lot of people like them, whether they're international or here locally, that are saying yes to these really hard things. And they don't always have a lot of resources or eyes that are specifically on them to resource them and what they need to keep going. And so that's where, you know, we begin to see really cool people that kind of wave the white flag to, I can't do this anymore because the pain, stress, and trauma levels get too high. And it's not because they're doing anything wrong. It's just because they're human. And oftentimes we're not resourced in what do we do with the human part of us in these high pain, stress, trauma zones. And so I think on that trip, we saw where they had enough relief and enough of that trauma impact lift off of them where they were able to keep going in their mission. And then we're able to pull in even some of what we'd handed them in next to kind of the mission that they had on the ground there. So when we left that trip, I think we both looked at each other on the plane and were like, was that like a thing? Like, is there something that might be coming from this that's more than just this trip? And then we were asked to do something similar a few weeks later. And so it really kind of grew organically initially. But that was kind of the first heart experience for us to go, oh, like maybe this is something. At the time, we still were both working full time in other places. And so it was something that kind of grew alongside our other jobs where we didn't know initially, like, is this ever going to be a full time thing? It was just, hey, we're going to respond when we see these things. Oh, thumbs up. When we see these things come forward. And then honestly, it just kind of began to organically unfold. And so even here locally, we'd had a previous experience with in connection with some law enforcement agencies and the Children's Advocacy Center. I had worked in schools previously, and so some of these other sectors we work with began to be interested in training in like small training blocks on resiliency. So that just kind of happened organically and led us to a place where eventually in 2020, we said, hey, like, what if we make this our full-time gig? And kind of jump away from the other things that we're holding. And so we had officially began in 2018 as a 501c3, but then when we hit 2020, we're like, okay, let's do this full time. So it really kind of grew out of experiences and stories that we were engaging internationally and then here locally in Northwest Arkansas.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how it really feels like what stands out to me in the theme, I feel like, of just gap relief, but also both of your hearts is it's a with experience. It's not a, hey, like, I'm going to drag you up here, come up here on my level. It's, hey, let's just meet you where you are and really get to know you on a personal human level. And yeah, I just think that's missed so often is just seeing people for people. I mean, like, okay, what do you need? How can we help you do what you're doing instead of get on our train, do what we're doing? Let's make you part of our mission or whatever that looks like, and really saying, we want you to do what you're doing, and there's a reason why you have that passion and it's needed, and let's just like help resource what is missing, which is so valuable and is not a traditional way of approaching people and systems. Is there's this very westernized colonial aspect of I'm going to take this thing over, kind of white savior complex, and that isn't the vibe of this at all. Which just feels really like, even as I'm hearing you guys talk about it, feels relieving to my system of like, that just feels inviting. It feels empowering. It feels amplifying. So it's neat how you guys have just had, it sounds like these experiences that have just cascaded into more. And now here you guys are like, it's just been interaction, it's been connection, and that's just built upon itself. And so that sounds like just what has led to where you guys are. It's wasn't intentional. It was like, okay, this is just what we're seeing, and here we go.
Yeah, very, very true. I feel like gap relief is for sure built in gaps. Very live with other people, collaboratively. It's the thing I love the most about how gap relief came to be is that it is organic. It didn't start with some clear goal. It actually just started with people in need, and everything really from there has been built from need. Where is the pain? How can we build something in that need? And so that's what makes it feel like it can help build resilience. And then our measure of success at the end of the day is that they don't need us anymore. How do we empower and equip and assist in such a way that they can do it without us?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. A launching pad. That's what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are listening are like, okay, this sounds really cool. I want to be connected to this. I think there are several ways that people might want to be connected, but I'm curious for those who are interested, what are the things that you guys offer both for people who might say like, yeah, I want to be a client. I want to maybe be a part of that more clinical aspect versus people who are like, I want to be in a program. I want to be a part of a training. Tell us a little bit more about how people can get connected and what you guys are offering there.
Well, if I start on a client level, what I would want a potential client to know about us is that, we're here to support holistically. And so we have everything from like neurofeedback to a body resource practitioner to um, coaches that can teach didactic things about nervous system and trauma and all the things. And so it's just, it's the kind of care I wish we could give all the humans. And so if a client wants to jump in, there's a lot of options, both in payment and insurance and just, because sometimes building a bridge to getting the care can be hard. And so that's what I would want to say first to clients is we've got a clinic and we're ready. We're ready for you. And we do somatic experiencing, internal family systems, EFT when it comes to marriages, brain spotting. Some of us do EMDR. So we try to use these models to be very trained and ready to do whatever is needed when you come sit on our couch. And so that's for clients. And then as far as like other clinicians, really when I invisibly envision like who is gap relief even in the community of practitioners and like mental health workers, um, is to have a mindset a little different than like a business mindset, but more so like, hey, we're all in this together. And of course we have to run our business, right? We have our team and that's who we use for our projects and we use for, if we're going to train the trainer and all that kind of stuff. But we are very open to kind of walking out how do we utilize the community as a whole when we become aware of some of the critical incidences that we sometimes get called into, and sometimes they're global. Sometimes they're not just here in Arkansas or in America. And so I love thinking like that because it feels like abundance thinking. And it's like, hey, we have a lot of resources that we can turn to. And so we would love to have people on our radar that are that are hearing this vision and kind of like what we're doing and our mission that is interested in being a part of things like this, that if we need to turn and be like, who else can help us with this, that we know who those people are. We are in our story so far, kind of where that question is catching us right now in our story is that we have been spending most of our time and energy in-house developing our core, who we are, the people that are here, developing it from the inside out. And so we're like, there's probably a little gap to that answer, like where we're not ready to like pull in all the people. And so we're like developing our core a little bit longer. But the spirit of how we walk is, hey, we're curious. Like we're curious how we get strong enough at our core. Then how do we pull our community of other fellow trauma therapists, trauma practitioners into what we're doing. So curious about that. We feel like that will build as we go. And, specifically the programs that we have right now that we're working the most on is with education and with law enforcement. And so we are getting into those systems and really just walking out like a year-long program where we hand them what we know. Like we want them to know, we want them to be trauma informed, human informed, resiliency informed. That's a picture of what we're doing. And right now it's like training. Megan and I have predominantly been the people doing that and developing the curriculum and kind of getting that clear. And we do look forward to multiplying ourselves to be able to expand who can walk this. And really what the drawback has been is just or the we're not there yet is just development. Like we're just developing that. And then the third tier that I would respond to is like people who hear what we're doing and want to help us from an investor level. So like we became a nonprofit because we sensed, hey, it takes an entire community to heal a community. Like we might have the skill set to go towards healing, but we don't have all the resources. And so we have had people come become aware of what we're doing and go, I don't know how to do what you do, but I can hand financial resources to this so you guys can keep developing, training the trainers. You can keep doing all this development work to expand the reach of what you're doing. And so if anybody wants to be like invest in what we're doing or hear more about how to do that, that's another way to get involved. And so that's really what I see so far in the place of the story that we're in right now.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think what I was hearing you say is that you guys are just curious of like, okay, if this piques your interest, reach out. There might be a place for you here. And this is a spot where we really want to partner with everyone in our community. And it reminds me of, I think I saw like a meme or whatever you want to call it, on the internet. And it was saying, you can't compete with me because I want you to win too. And that's what that sounds like, is this isn't a competition. We're not operating off of a me versus you scarcity mindset. This is, hey, everybody's invited to the table. In fact, we need you. So let's start a conversation. Let's be curious about how we are both meeting different needs in the community and how we can widen that influence and impact to where even more people, even more gaps are filled, and we're building this network, we're building this bridge together. And there are a lot of ways that you can get connected to that, whether it's being involved as an investor, getting connected to and joining alongside in different programs and efforts as people in the field and the community, as well as just, hey, I need these resources, let me get connected, and so I can take advantage of that. So I think that that's really valuable, and again, very countercultural of we live in a society where it's, how can I be better than everybody else and succeed more than everybody else? And this is not that. This is, hey, we want everybody to succeed. Come along the journey if you're interested. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like you're catching that. That's exactly our heart and what we attempt to do, to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is the program side. Like if somebody that is hearing this is a part of a school district or is connected to a police department or fire department or something like that and would be interested in connecting on the program side, like reaching out to us on that side as well. I know Amy talked about like those are the programs that are the most developed. We've also done some in nonprofit sector also, and just kind of what can it look like to be a resilient nonprofit. And when we say program, that can look like a lot of different things. That can look like sectors of training, that can look like one-on-one consultation with leadership, but really kind of looking at the entire organization and how can we infuse some things there that are trauma informed, human informed, and fight for resiliency across the system on a systemic level. And so that's been really neat to see just those programs continue to grow and develop, and to have the opportunity to lean in to those spaces in Northwest Arkansas. So just wanted to note that one specifically, that if you're part of one of those systems, we'd love to connect with you there as well.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that, Megan. And for those that are interested, that do want to get connected, what's the best way for these people to reach out?
Yeah, I think so our website is probably the best place to start. It's just gaprelief.com. And there's some contact information on there. There's also a form you can fill out that kind of has a an inquiry for different types of programs. So like if you might be interested in a training program of some kind. And so our contact information is there for our intake coordinator on the clinic side as well. Really easy if somebody's hearing this and just wants to know what it is. It's just info@gaprelief.com would be an email address that you could reach out to. You can also connect with us on social media, either on Instagram or on Facebook, and both of those are just Gap Relief or at Gap Relief. So yeah, I would say our website's probably the easiest place to start, unless you're a social media guru and want to go that direction. But we would love to connect with you in any way, shape, or form.
Great. Is there anything else, any other like programs or things that you all are involved in ways that people can really get connected? Or yeah, just things that you feel like people should know about who you all are and what you're doing.
Um, I do think something that's unique about what we offer, and I think Amy mentioned it just when she was describing our whole picture, but is the intensive program that we have here at Gap Relief. I think that's something kind of unique. And that came out of just sensing and feeling a need for extended spaces. You know, oftentimes when you're looking at weekly counseling appointments and you're jumping in for an hour and you're jumping out, there can be a lot of benefit to that, but there can also be barriers. And just there's that transition time every time to get into that space and then to come out of that space. And then you're living real life in between there. And whereas an intensive can kind of provide buffer from the rest of your world, and I think give some more space for your heart, soul, mind, body to settle into healing work. And so when I say intensive, that really just means an extended period of time, like sitting in a therapeutic space. And so we currently have a 1 week and a 2 week intensive program. And I think part of what is unique about it is that there's the counseling piece, which is for sure primary, but as Amy described earlier, some of the different services we have allows us to really kind of make that a wrap model. We're learning more and more just in the counseling field as a whole. And Sarah, I'm sure you've seen more information on this as well, but just how much our physical body is impacted by the pain, stress, and trauma that we experience. And those can be places I know, even as a practitioner at times, as I've worked with clients, it's like that's where we get stuck sometimes that, hey, we're processing through this emotionally, we're processing through this cognitively, but like it's still in my body. And so we really incorporate a lot of our body team into the intensive, which I think is unique. And so most who come for an intensive will experience neurofeedback, will experience some of the body work. That can be breath work, that can be brain spotting, it can be a lot of different things. We also have some kinetic experiences that allow just creative ways to kind of move energy, grief, anger, those types of things through your body. And so I think that's something unique, and we've seen a lot of benefit from that program, especially when I look at helpers, because it's hard to get into an extended space where you're not holding all the things. And so to get to come and be in a space where you're not holding all the things, and our team is able to kind of wrap around you, it's been a really, really cool. So I think that's a unique service that we offer, also that I would want people to know about.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. And you know, I spoke with Brittany Turner, who does a lot of work in the intensive programs, on the 10th episode of this podcast. So that's a place where you can also learn more, as you can listen to that episode. And Brittany really goes into more depth about what that program looks like and how you can get connected to that. And then I also have an episode coming out with one of the neurofeedback team members about what she does and how you can get connected in that avenue as well, and learn a little bit more about what neurofeedback is. But yeah, that is so great, of just having more time and space to really dedicate towards processing and moving through. And I think just as a human who has worked through my own trauma and done things in intensive formats, as well as being a clinician, seeing that there is so much value of allowing time and space for your body to settle into safety where you can actually process. And there are just sometimes limitations to what you can do in a therapeutic hour every week. And so getting a more dedicated space to where you have more freedom to really say, okay, like I've got like a week or 2 weeks where I can really dive in and have an integrative and holistic experience that maybe opens up avenues that I never knew I needed or never knew I could access before now is really valuable.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah,
Awesome.
either.
Well, thank you guys so much for just being on here and sharing just who you all are. I think it's really fun just knowing you both professionally and personally, and then getting to just, I think even in this space, I've learned more about gap relief. And I think that's really fun just as a human to get to know that better and how I can engage with that. And I'm excited for those listening to get to engage with you all more in the work that you're doing. And I'm excited to see how things continue to just bloom and grow and flourish. And it's really needed and really valuable. So thank you guys so much for just being here and sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah.
thank you, Sarah. We
Yeah.
appreciate you and what you do as well. And as Amy said at the beginning, but just really cool that you're pulling the community together in this way also. So we say that a lot. We don't need to be silos. And so seeing you kind of unsiloing the community, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. It's